Hey guys, what's poppin'? Jacques Slade here, and this is the Nike Air Max Pre-Day. First of all, let's just get it out of the way. That is a terrible name. There is some context around it, but for the most part, I think it's a bad name. Two, this is another example of Nike going back to the future. Now, this isn't exactly a review of the shoe. I would consider it more of a first impressions or a first look, so let's just jump into it. For the unboxing experience, or at least for the pair that I received, don't expect anything special. Even though this is a shoe being built as a part of Air Max Day, the pair I was sent uses the Move to Zero recycling / sustainability box that we have seen the brand using on several different models. Now, this may play into the sustainability model that Nike is actually marketing with this shoe. More on that later, but my pair did not come with tissue paper. On one hand, it's a little jarring, obviously, to open the box and not see the tissue paper there, but on the other hand, it looks like this is a genuine effort by Nike to limit the impact that they're having on the environment, which in my mind is definitely a step in the right direction. And quick side note, the best way to be sustainable is to reuse the items that you already have for different purposes, not buying recycled or sustainably produced products. We all should be striving to reuse what we already have before we look to use something new. /Indurant. Getting back to the shoes, the first thing that I noticed when taking them out of the box was how light these shoes actually are. Nike isn't actually teasing them as particularly light, but when you do get them in hand, you do feel how light they are, and it works well for a silhouette like this that definitely has more of a social presence than it does have a performance presence. I imagine people getting these will just be able to rock these all day long without any issues when it comes to the weight of the shoe. So the other thing you notice, that which is really going to jump out at anyone that looks at this sneaker, is on the outsole / midsole area. Oddly enough, Nike actually doesn't even have a specific name for it. You would expect Nike will call this the Air Window Max or the Max Air Visible Window, but no, they just say it's a visible air unit. For those that are familiar with the Nike Air Max line, you know that the first visible window appeared on the Nike Air Max 1 back in 1987. It is essentially a shoe that sparked the whole Air Max craze and really our infatuation with seeing the air unit inside of a shoe. And just to clarify, for those that are out there wondering, the first Nike Air unit actually used in the shoe was called the Nike Air Tailwind back in '79, not the Air Max 1 or the Air Force 1. So back to the Pre-Day. So the Air unit that you see here is the same unit that is used in the Air Max 1, the Air Max 90, and the Air Jordan 3, 4, 5, and 6. Back when these models were created, Nike actually used a company called Tetra Plastics out of St. Louis. They were a plastics manufacturer, and they helped Nike develop the visible air tubing that was used in all of the Air Max shoes. And they also pioneered the blow molding of airbags, which increased the cushioning of the units as well. Something I didn't expect to learn while researching airbags for this video was that Nike took 10 years before they decided to buy Tetra Plastics and make it a part of the company. Up until then, a competitor could have literally swooped in and bought the company from underneath them. So Nike backstory aside, the use of the older Air unit and the Pre-Day definitely is a bit of a letdown in my opinion. I get that this shoe is definitely taking on some retro vibes. I love it. But for something that comes out in 2021, you would expect that the cushioning, especially if you're going to show it off in a way just like this, it would provide more of a benefit than a more than 30-year-old technology. Obviously, the manufacturing process and the durability of the Air unit has been improved since that time, but with such a forward-looking midsole of the shoe, I would look for a more forward-looking cushioning technology as well. Now, again, that's not to say that these shoes don't fit the bill when it comes to an everyday wear. It's that the sort of responsiveness that I look for in a sneaker these days just doesn't seem to be present in this model. Style-wise, this extruded version of a midsole reminds me a lot of the work that Nike is doing in the ISPA division. In particular, this reminds me of the Nike ISPA Zoom Road Warrior that came out last year that I was not able to get my hands on. When I think of forward-looking designs, having those Zoom units in the heel of this shoe may have limited my trepidation with the older Air Max 1 unit that's in this heel. This also reminds me a bit of the setup in the Air Jordan 35. It isn't exactly the same, but the concept of having that open space in the midsole reminds me a lot of what Jordan was doing, especially when it comes to performance. And let's not forget that there is a fair amount of EVA foam in the shoes as well, and that is what provides really a majority of the cushioning that you feel with with these shoes, especially here at the toe. Just wearing it around, you can feel the responsiveness of the foam underfoot more than you can feel the air unit, in my opinion. The air unit seems to be more of just a visible cue of air versus the actual cushioning you get from the EVA foam. Now, part of this could be the setup and how the air unit is placed in the rear of the shoe. Both that lower and upper part, those are brackets and they sandwich the air unit. They're rigid and not as forgiving as the foam, so that inhibits a little bit of the sensation you would get from being directly on top of the air unit. With that being said, though, you do get a firmer response if that's something that you're looking forward to. I'd say you have to intentionally step on the rear of the shoe to feel the airbag cushioning. For the outsole traction, Nike provides a generous amount of rubber, which is always nice, and it goes from the toe all the way to the heel, and it should last you for a while. There is no intricate design or anything like that, but you do get these like large rectangles that go all the way around the shoe, and they should be great for traction, especially if you're going to be walking around in these. When you move from the midsole slash outsole, we have the upper of the shoe, which is really honed in on that old school retro vibes. Nike is using polyester for a majority of the inlays, while they have a pseudo suede material that they're using at the toe and the heel of the shoe. There is also a few pieces of felt on the shoe as well, which seem a little bit out of place. You have one on the heel here where you have the Nike logo, and then there's another pattern on the tongue, which again doesn't seem like it really adds to the shoe outside of just being visual candy. For the eyelets, you get this like ripstop netted nylon material that adds a nice visual design cue to the shoes and makes it feel a bit more futuristic due to the way that the knitting patterns like crisscross, and that's also repeated on the areas that circle the ankle. Something that I like that Nike has done with these is they made the stitching very overt. So you have it over both sides of the shoe and at the toe box in these very, I would say, intentional patterns that, though they are monotone to the material, they do add some visual interest to the shoe and reinforce the retro vibes that exudes from this shoe's upper. Nike says the aesthetic of the shoe is a blend of 70s and the 2020s, which I get based on the mix of the upper and the midsole. The upper feels like the 70s, while the midsole outsole combination feels like something you would definitely see on a shoe released in 2021. And with a shoe releasing in 2021, it is important to note that Nike has marketed this shoe with the sustainability angle. According to the literature, this shoe is 20% recycled by weight, which translates to a fully 100% recycled polyester on the upper and about 13% Nike grind being included within the rubber of the outsole. And actually, if you look closely, you can actually see the specks of the Nike grind embedded within the rubber of the outsole, which gives it a slightly speckled look. It's not overt like we've seen with past models, and that's, a love it or hate it, really depending on your taste. But the visual cue of the Nike grind being there adds to the futuristic vibes of the shoe, in my opinion. To Nike's credit, when it comes to sustainability, they have made some considerable effort when it comes to the airbags in these shoes. According to Nike, they reuse more than 90% of the waste from materials used for air soles to make new cushioning systems, which is awesome. Thinking back to the 70s, when former aerospace engineer Frank Rudy introduced the airbags to Phil Knight, you wonder if a shoe like this, the Nike Pre-Day, was the expectation. Was a large visible air unit inside your shoe a long-term goal, or was something like this something that they felt should have happened way back then? Essentially, Nike just hollowed out the midsole for the Pre-Day. The technology that's being used here isn't brand new or pushing the envelope forward in any form of cushioning. If anything, it's adjusting the visual cue of the air unit and really reshaping our thinking of what is acceptable. Now, that is something I'm personally game for. Pushing boundaries of design is how we lead to more innovation and better understanding of the world around us. However, there is a part of me that still wonders what this shoe would look and feel like if Nike had pushed the performance innovation forward as well as the aesthetics. When I think of Air Max Day, the shoe that comes to mind is the Nike Vapormax. It was forward-looking, it mixed two different technologies, and it was prepped as a vehicle that set the stage for the next evolution of Air. For the Pre-Day, this feels like an iteration as opposed to innovation. And maybe that's just me being spoiled when it comes to Air Max Day and feeling like it represents a leap forward in technology for Air Max. Instead, this just feels like a rehashing, a pretty dope looking and interesting rehashing of an older cushioning technology that I will no doubt be getting multiple pairs of, but the sneaker aficionado slash tech guy inside of me will always want more and always push the teams at Nike to do more. With that being said, the Nike Air Pre-Day will arrive on March 26th for $130, which I think is a fantastic deal. This colorway is the Volt colorway and will be releasing first, though I expect that Nike will be treating these like they did the 270 or the Air Max Zero and dropping a few colors over the course of the next months, with a possible larger drop happening closer to the holidays. Now, as far as fit goes, I'd say true to size, I wear an 11, between an 11 and 11 and a half, and these are an 11 and a half, and they feel absolutely fine. I wore these with socks that I would say were a bit on the thinner side, and they felt fine. I had plenty of room if I wanted to move to a thicker sock, and I don't think it would have been an issue at all. Okay, so that's it. Those are my thoughts on the Nike Air Max Pre-Day. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you going to get yourself a pair, or are you going to wait till more colors come out, or are you going to wait to see what else Nike is dropping on Air Max Day before you make your decision? Let me know below, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.